All right, welcome back to Burn the Ship, where I'm your host, Ezra Brown, and I'm going to let my guest introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Adam Christian. I'm a co-founder and CEO of a company called Stateful. I live in the Bay Area. I've been working in startups since 2006-ish, and I'm from the Pacific Northwest originally.
That's awesome, Adam. Well, that's a different stretch all the way down there. But kind of give us paint us a picture of what it's been like for you. Especially I know a little bit about your background just from my own research, but kind of tell the people what you do and how this came about and how you turned it into something where it could be where you're at today.
Yeah. Um, well, let's see. I moved to the Bay Area right after college in 2006 and have spent a lot of my career working in sort of developer focused startups and um, my longest stint was with a company called Sauce Labs. We built a cloud for doing test automation, for integration testing. And that gave me a whole lot of exposure to, just interfacing directly with developers, trying to figure out what their challenges are. And after that, I spent some time in a company called Buoyant, makes a service mesh for Kubernetes called Linkerd. And after that, my co-founder and I, who had worked with me at Sauce Labs, Sebastian, um, we had an idea, which is not the idea we wound up on, which is, I think part of a lot of startups' journey is that pivot, right? Originally, the idea was around basically automating the one-on-one that you have with your manager and using developer metrics to do that. We built and launched that, and we got a lot of installs, but it didn't feel like a venture scale business. So we pivoted to something a little different, which is what we're doing today, which is around helping codify sort of tribal operational knowledge so that it can be shared and used for teams. Um,
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, elaborate a little bit more on what that endeavor is.
yep. So we built a company called Stateful. We are building um, a commercial cloud a solution built on an open source project. The open source project is called runme.dev. And the basic idea there is that Jupyter notebooks have done a really good job of making it easy to sort of map out and make machine learning flows accessible for other people.
Right.
But there's a lot of proprietary stuff around that, how it's saved and stored and, understanding of how to set that up and everything. So what we did was we took that concept and we applied it to DevOps, but written in Markdown so that it's really easy for you to build out these workflows and then check them into your repository as Markdown code, right? So it's part of
Right.
your GitOps flow. And makes it really easy for you to take bash commands, code snippets, language, integrations with cloud providers, and put all that stuff into a sort of visual user experience that's easy for other people to understand and to use. And then once you're doing that sort of a thing, and you find out that it's really nice to have documentation that actually works, um, then you start wanting more things, right? And a good way to think about it is that a notebook, a RunMe notebook, is your documentation, but also dependency installation, integrations with things like dev containers, helping you to sort out your .env, your config, and your secrets, and
APIs,
bringing it
everything.
all
Yeah.
together, right, into one place where when you consume it, the thing actually works. Uh,
Right.
and so that's great. And that all runs on your laptop or in VS Code compatible environments on the web or in a CLI or in a GitHub Action. Um, but also, we're offering a cloud service that adds the stateful component to it, which is authenticating and saving and sharing things and um, configuring profiles for those environments.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, because I'm familiar with, not familiar, but slightly familiar with kind of your space and your world because you guys are in our sphere. We do merchant, so we do credit card processing. So, and we write APIs, or we have an API that goes and links in with to make your job easier on the back end, or to make that person's job easier that's building and writing that software. So I kind of hear the language, you know what I mean? But it's not like my first language. It's like the third language I learned when I was 3.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you take that example, The way to think about it would be, you bring up this UX, this notebook UX, right? But it's running locally instead of in a wiki somewhere.
Right.
And you could design a flow which is test all those endpoints and hit them with different kinds of data. You could give somebody a way to understand that in a way that they can
Right.
without really becoming an expert on it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Giving and then making that user interface better for the consumer to where we or that the person that's using it, Mr. Client here, Client B, we're a plumbing business and we need trying to make your workflows faster. Yeah, I can appreciate that. That's awesome. And then what's it called? What's been that hardest thing that you've had to overcome, as going out on your own, especially working for other people, building things for other people. But what's been that hardest thing you've experienced going out on your own right now?
Oh man. Um, so there's just so much. Let me see if I can try to condense this down. I would say the early stages are kind of tough, right? Because you leave a job with people that you really like and some amount of assurance of longevity. Um, but starting the company and getting into it and making that jump was nowhere near the hardest thing. I think for me, there's so much learning you have to do, and you have to do it really quickly, and then you have to be able to integrate it in a way that you can make good decisions, right?
Right.
And so you don't know what you don't know, and as you painfully find out along the way you don't know, you start to realize how much you don't know, and it's pretty overwhelming. I
Right.
would say for me to date, one of the biggest challenges is around understanding how you bring something to market, right? Like go to market. How do you start reaching your audience? What kind of conversations do you have with people to get, what their real pains are and
Right.
try to integrate what you can actually bring in terms of value and solutions that they're gonna, understand and get excited about, right? Because I think one of the most important parts of an early stage startup is you get some champions who really like what you're doing and they kind of look past all of the rough areas and see that potential and help you get to a place where you have a solution that's sort of more broadly consumable. And so I've been working hard on trying to understand how that whole world works, which is a lot of different tooling than when you're building stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Absolutely. And that's the best part because that's why we call it burn the ship. You're gonna make it there. You're gonna die trying.
that's right. That's right. That's
But no, it's going on your own is definitely something. But it's one of those things. You wouldn't take it back for? Would you?
No, I mean, I have learned so much that it's almost indescribable, right? And I think what I also found is that when you go out into the world and you're doing this, there is both a component of it's a little bit of a lonely thing, right? So I
Right.
think that folks should have, co-founders or teams around them that can really encourage each other because so much of it is your internal emotional
Right.
challenge. But also when you go out there and ask for help, people really are willing to help you. You just have to parse through all that advice and decide which parts of it are you and which parts aren't.
Absolutely. And with that, what's been kind of that lean on? What's been the thing you've been able to lean on through this time?
Yeah, so you know, everywhere. I've leaned everywhere, right? My family gets the brunt of a lot of this stuff. My co-founder and I, that's a really challenging relationship to build. It's a lot more like a marriage than a work relationship. A lot of the sort of advisors and experienced people from my past endeavors have really stepped up and been so open and willing to meet with me, both when things feel like they're going good, and but especially when they're really not. And so, one of the things that I found is also talking to other founders who have done more than just one startup. It's really nice to know that the stuff that you're facing is not unique to you, right?
Right.
That's somehow comforting, even maybe if it's not particularly helpful.
Right. Yeah. No. Most definitely. But that's kind of the world that we live in. You got to make it work or make something shake out of it. But no, man, what you do is super interesting because there's millions of people that do it, not worldwide, but there's only certain people do it well, certain people don't. But one of those things is you're going out on your own and taking that risk, and that's something that's special. You know what I mean? And that's something that most people don't do, and that's why you get to say that's why you're sitting here talking to people is because it's helping them get the perspective of something that they don't already have. You know what I mean? They're aspiring to do what you do. They want to go through the struggle. You know, you probably knew at some point in time it would come, you would come through, but look, there's light at every end of every tunnel. Everyone
I mean,
from
I
the hard work.
would say that for me, if I hadn't really gone for it, I probably would have spent the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I had, and what I would have learned from that experience. And so, honestly, as painful as it is to be uncomfortable this much for this long,
Right.
it really sort of, I think, fundamentally changes who you are. And so if you have curiosity about it, you really should give it a go. It won't last forever, and you'll take away a lot, most likely.
Absolutely. And then what's been your favorite part about going out on your own?
Well, there is a component of if you're inside of a company and you see a lot of things that aren't right, there's usually a lot of red tape and bureaucracy around changing them, right? And I think it's you have the double-sided coin in that if things are not going well and if things are not how you want them, you have to look in the mirror, right? Because there's no one else to point the finger at. But the other thing is you can sit down and you can really ask yourself, you know, let's not sit here and complain about this. What are we going to do to change it? What kind of an impact can we make right now? Right.
Right.
And that's a pretty satisfying place to be. And that's where those real sort of introspective moments, I think, come from. The other thing is just simply that it is so hard to get people to care about anything that you do, right? A lot of startup folks, they worry, oh, what if I launch this and it's not perfect, and or another company takes my idea? I just really find that that is not a part of the equation. Nobody cares until they care, right?
Right.
And when you get someone to come back to you using your stuff, saying, "This added a lot of value to my day. This really helped me with a problem or something that was really irritating,
Right.
or a time waster," there is an amount of satisfaction there that's sort of hard to even express.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and that's the coolest thing about what you guys do because it's like nobody wanted to be QuickBooks until QuickBooks became a thing. You know, or nobody wanted to be MindBody until MindBody started monopolizing other industries inside of what they do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of those things. It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's part of what I'm sort of amazed by now, right? When a product shows up and I wind up putting in a credit card, I have so much more appreciation now for how much work probably went into the thousands of iterations that got it to a place where A, I understood it, B, I found it appealing, and C, it was helpful enough that I want to give them money for it, right? I mean, that's
Right.
hard to do.
Right, because yeah, you got to make it friendly for the user that's 85 and never worked really had to work a laptop. You got to make it friendly to the 18-year-old that's paying for their parents or the 14-year-old that's getting on there and paying it for their parents. That could work. They can almost code themselves in some sense. You know, in some cases at this day and age. But and that's kind of that's what we try to do too, because they pay 3% on their credit card processing, and that's what we do. That's why we try to come in there and help them out because we'll talk a little bit more about it after the podcast, but that's kind of what we do and go into them and we're like, look, this person don't care about you. They just want to take your credit cards. They don't care about you. So, and that's, we're on the back end trying to be like, we're regular people too, man. We're not the big conglomerate $1 billion company that's there that's just going to take your money and continue on down the road. And that's what we appreciate about people like you, Adam, is that you guys are down here on the ground level trying to figure out what works for what you're doing.
Yeah, and I would say in the payment space, especially in some of these more sort of sensitive, highly regulated areas, investing into how you operate and not making mistakes is probably an enormous part of that, right? Because somebody sees something going on their Facebook, they reload the page. Somebody sees something not working right with their bank account, they get real alarmed real quick, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh no, you're most definitely correct. That has been like one of our challenges. And then the last thing I got for you is the name of our podcast is Burn the Ship, all right? And do you know where we got the name from?
I don't.
Central American key store. Hernan Cortez lands in modern day Mexico. Thought it was America. He thought he landed in Florida. He landed in Central Mexico or Central America, somewhere down in South Mexico, and he made his men disassemble their ships and take off all their supplies, and it made them burn them on the beaches. And that was his sign to his men that they were going to make it there or they were going to die trying. And by that sense, and that's we use the same sense in business and entrepreneurship. When you go out on your own or you start a business, that's how it goes. We're going to make it there or die trying. So what we ask is, what were the emotions when you finally were like, all right, I'm burning the ship. I'm going out and starting my own gig.
What were the emotions? I think both when you start and also if you raise future funding, I think there's this euphoric sense of accomplishment that is quickly followed by terror, right? Because that money means you have to go create value, and there is so much work and expectation that is now ahead of you. That I think I am a strong believer that you need to celebrate your accomplishments, but also the whole journey is about keeping your head down and pushing forward and not getting overly emotional in any direction, right? So that's my answer. It's more than one set of emotions. It's a whole spectrum.
Right, most definitely, man. Adam, it's been a pleasure having you on. Tell the people where to find you.
You can check out our cloud product at stateful.com, or you can go try our open source project runme.dev at runme.dev right now in your VS Code.